Welcome back, guys, to Phoenix Wright, as motive is about to be proved for why Godot did a killing, though we need to exactly hear from his own lips, I feel, about what really transpired and what caused him to kill Maya's mother. Of course, the fact that it was in the guise of Dahlia Hawthorne seems to be the main reason, but considering he knew about the plan, why didn't he stop this beforehand? I don't understand. It seems like revenge motivates him so strongly. But let's hear it, as Godot says. Let's pry it out of his lips. It's very simple. Maya Fey is a lot more than just a stranger to you. What's this? There's only one person who lies at the very center of this whole story. One person that ties you and Maya Fey together inextricably. Well, it's a death if I fell, but I know I'm not going to. Mia Fey, you're our reason. Take that! Take that! There's a very good reason why Maya Fey's life is so precious to you. After all, she is Mia Fey's only sister. Mia Fey? You once worked alongside her. That was when you were a defense attorney. Wait a second here. Mr. Godot is a defense attorney? With your honor's piercing intellect, you must have figured it out by now. The real name of this man who calls himself Godot. His real name is Diego Armando. Isn't that right? The last time someone called me by that name was over 6 years ago. Diego Armando, that name rings a bell. It should, Your Honor. All of this is related to a single case. A case in which a convict named Terry Fools killed himself. Mia Fey's first time in court, the tragic outcome left a deep wound in her heart. She knew that behind it all was a heartless, scheming demoness in disguise. But in the end, Mia couldn't tear off that disguise. However, there was one man who reached out to help her. Diego Armando, a senior defense attorney at the office where Mia worked. It's my fault! It's all my fault that Mr. Fools killed himself! Mia, you can't cry yet. The only time a lawyer can cry is when it's all over. I was moved by her. The way she put all her faith in her clients, that pure sweetheart of hers. That's why I could never forgive Dahlia Hawthorne. Mia and I thoroughly investigated that fake kidnapping incident. Then one fateful day, Dahlia wanted to meet with me. It had been 6 months since the trial. We met in the courthouse cafeteria. Ah, I just remembered. 6 years ago, right here in this courthouse, you were poisoned. Even I didn't see it coming. Dahlia Hawthorne slipped some poison into my coffee. Some newspapers at the time called it a murder, but very little information about the case was released to the press. But you weren't dead at all. No official reports ever actually called it a murder. I was just in a deep, deep coma. I see. My body shut down, and my life became nothing but a long, deep sleep. That woman's poison did a real number on my central nervous system. I lost my sight, and all of my hair turned white due to the damage it caused. That's terrible. Apparently it was a miracle that I ever regained consciousness. 5 years had passed since I drank that poison brew. Then one morning my eyes flew open from the smell of a doctor's cup of coffee. 5 years? You were asleep for 5 years? And the worst possible news was waiting for me. Mia Fey was dead. From the very moment I opened my eyes, I had already lost everything I thought I had. The woman I loved had been murdered, and the woman I loathed had been sentenced to death. The woman you loathed? The woman who spiked my scalding hot coffee, Dahlia Hawthorne. Ha! Good old Mia. She didn't let me down. She got her revenge before she checked out. In the end, there wasn't anyone waiting for me when I woke up.
That's so sad.
For someone like me, for someone who had slept away their best days, there were only 2 reasons left to live. And it was for those 2 reasons that I decided to become a prosecutor.
If I may ask, what were your 2 reasons to live?
The first was you, trite.
Huh? Me?
If I hadn't drank that stupid poison, Mia Fey never would have died, much less the way she did. You were the only one who was there to protect her. But you let her die. It was all your fault.
It wasn't like that.
I wanted to see for myself what kind of man you really were. So that's why you became a prosecutor? My other reason for living? She goes by the name of Mia Fey.
Huh? You mean me?
You were the only way I could make up for the sin of not saving Mia. 1 year ago, when the Crane Village incident was resolved, it was obvious that Morgan Fey was planning something. Whatever evil plan was, I was determined to stop it. My role as a prosecutor put me in the perfect position to do something about her.
That's how you overheard Pearl's visit with Morgan in the detention center.
I knew the time was drawing near. Since I knew the plan, I thought I could foil it. My goal was to outwit the plan. I thought if I could do that, I could keep that girl from being caught up in it.
You could have just made sure she didn't go or tell him about the plan in the first place. That makes sense. No, it doesn't! If Pearls had known that the actual purpose of the plan was to kill Maya, she never would have helped out. But you had a year to tell.
Finally, the day of the plan was drawing near. I contacted both of my accomplices. Accomplices? Iris of Hazakura Temple and Misty Fey. I especially needed the help of Iris. She was to take the fall in my backup plan in case we couldn't control Pearl Fey.
But how did you contact my mother? She'd been missing for almost 20 years.
Officially, yes.
What do you mean, officially? Witness protection? Something like that?
You've heard about it, haven't you? About the strong ties between the main family and the government?
Now that you mention it, Bikini did say something to that effect. She said that the Master of Karain had great authority.
Even without her official position, Misty Fey still wielded great influence. The police have been keeping an eye on her movements all this time. That's how I was able to contact her. Again, because of my position as a prosecutor.
So my mother was cooperating with you?
Don't ever forget, no matter how far away from you she was, she never stopped thinking about you.
She was always...
That's why I knew she would do anything to protect you. If you want to know how strong her resolve to protect you was, look at her staff. Her staff? The one with the sword in it? The day the plan was to be carried out arrived soon enough. We met for the first time at Hazakura Temple. That's when your mother showed me her special staff. I realized it then, just how far she was willing to go. She was ready to use that sword to protect you from Morgan Fey, if necessary. Yes, even if it meant paying the ultimate price.
Mother...
That night, the night of the crime, there was just one way to stop Morgan's evil plan.
You mean Pearls... don't you? I was thinking Pearls was going to say something.
We had to make sure she didn't channel Dahlia Hawthorne.
Well, Pearl, what are you going to do tonight? Well, if you like, you can come to my room. Perhaps we can read some books together.
Ah, so that was to draw her away. We thought we could prevent her from playing a part in Morgan's plan, but she never showed up.
She was worried and followed me to the inner temple.
That was the thing we were most afraid of. And that's why Misty Fey had to do the channeling herself. She channeled Dahlia Hawthorne into her own body. What? What do you mean?
If she channeled the spirit first, then Pearls wouldn't be able to do it herself.
As Master of Karain, Misty Fey's power was supreme. So that's how it went down. She channeled Dahlia Hawthorne so the Pearl Fae wouldn't be able to.
Ah!
What? Is this true? My role in the plan was to make sure no one was going to hurt Mayor Faye. That's why I hid myself at the Inner Temple. Just in case you needed to be saved from Dahlia Hawthorne.
Godot.
Anyway, that's all I'm going to admit to. Trite.
Huh?
There's no doubt about it. You're a great defense attorney. But you're going to have to do the rest yourself. The background leading up to this incident has been laid bare. There's just one question remaining, Mr. Wright. Who killed the victim? There are only two possible suspects right now. Mayor Faye? And I'm sad to say, you, Mr. Godot. Well, Trite. If you're the real deal, then finish this thing once and for all. Show us beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can finish this on your own.
No, Nick, but please don't.
Mayor.
I heard the whole thing. From my sister in the medical office. That's why. I have to protect Mr. Godot. I can't do it. I can't testify against him. After all, he's the man who put his life on the line to protect Mia. And me too.
Mayor.
I know that. Nick. But even so, it doesn't absolve him of his crime. Please, Mayor, testify.
Miss Faye, your testimony, please.
This is the final testimony. Don't bother trying to hide anything, because I'll know. I want to hear the truth from your own lips. I understand. I'm sure you're right. I'm ready now, Nick.
All right, young lady. Tell us about the moment before you lost consciousness. What exactly happened at the time of the murder?
So what am I looking for? Just before it happened, I think I saw some red lights. 3 of them. We know that. I thought I'd ask for help, but just then I was splattered with blood. We know that. She wasn't dead though, and she struck back at the enemy behind her. That's the interesting point. Suddenly the red lights went out and the whole area was dark. Oh? Just that moment, it was a horrible scream. Right after that, Dahlia collapsed and I lost consciousness. Well, from that testimony, we can tell that the attack went back and forth.
These red lights, I thought you said you don't remember seeing them.
I'm sorry. I thought I saw them. But then they disappeared all of a sudden.
Ha! Things break, Trite. Even the best of theories. Who was it that stabbed Misty Faye? It looks like you still can't prove it.
Maya is telling the truth this time, I know it. The rest is up to me.
Well then, Mr. Wright, proceed with your final cross-examination of the witness.
The first 2 statements are facts we know. We saw the red lights and I think we've proven that. So I think pushing on that anymore is useless. Pushing on number 2, which of course is, yes, just before it happened, you think saw some red lights, 3 of them. We know that. I thought I'd ask for help, but just then I was splattered with blood. So we know that she was splattered with blood and she fell unconscious. It's the interesting movements here. She wasn't dead, she attacked behind her. The red lights went out and the whole area was dark. So if she struck out and lashed out and the red lights went out, that means a stab was aimed because she held the dagger? Or the staff? No, she had the staff because she hit. But she aimed an attack at Godot's head. Well, eyes. Of course, if you only saw the red lights, you'd aim at the red lights, wouldn't you? But then, there was a horrible scream. So I take it, an attack was to 1, hit Godot in the face, and then an attack was returned, which was the killing blow. So I'm going to press from these 3, not the first 2. I don't think they're useful. Struck back? How'd you know that? Well, you're right. I didn't see it exactly, but I could tell by the sounds of their breathing and movement, and also the smell of blood.
You have witnessed more horror than any young lady should ever have to in one life.
She really has.
So then, what did you do at that point?
I couldn't move. I could just barely make out their shadows moving in the dark, but I had no idea what to do. Could you still see the red lights you mentioned earlier? Yes. I think so. But... Okay, that's probably not an important statement.
Hold it!
I'm expecting something to allow us to press or delve further. They went out? Yes, suddenly I couldn't see them at all.
What could it mean?
If the red lights were coming from Godot's mask, and they went out right in the middle of a fight, maybe the mask was damaged, exactly what I postulated. Or maybe it was knocked off.
Or maybe the batteries ran out. Right, trite. Or maybe those little red pinhead looking lights just stopped working.
What could have really happened then? He was attacked, is what I'd say. It was knocked off. You'd aim at the red lights. The person was intending to kill Maya with something, after all. But from there, of course, Dahlia didn't know there was a sword and a staff. There was a dagger on the scene too that we don't know the blood thing. We know it wasn't plunged into... We know it wasn't used to attack Misty. Yeah, okay, that's all good.
Hold it!
That's the point. That's the real point. Looking at the court record, even though I didn't look at it, it's just remembering the fact that, of course, before we stepped in here, we know the blood test kind of things, that it wasn't on Misty Faye. What do you mean by just at that moment regarding the scream? Do you mean the moment when the red lights went out? Yes, that's right. The scream that you heard then, was it Dahlia Hawthorne? Oh, maybe it was the person not expecting to be attacked. Maybe it was a scream of rage. I don't think so. So it wasn't Dahlia being a finishing fatal blow. Or maybe the fatal blow had already been delivered, considering the blood splattered. And considering the state we found the body, there was the cane sword plunged straight through her. So the blood splattering would be quite serious. It's the last attack. A final flurry. Must be. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was a man's voice.
What? So then, that scream came from the killer?
That's gotta be it. I think Dahlia Hawthorne must have taken the blade and attacked the killer with it. No, because it would be inside her. I thought they didn't take it out because of the blood loss.
And then the killer let out a scream of pain, huh?
After that, the killer stole the blade back and delivered the final blow, I guess. Now we're overlooking the dagger entirely. We know that that weapon was used, so it's gotta be based around the dagger.
Well, Mr. Wright, it seems to make sense to me.
Sounds like a reasonable deduction, but I still kind of wonder. No, there's definitely a contradiction. We're forgetting about the dagger. Blood splattered over Maya before the strike was delivered. That was part of the testimony. So this sword was already buried deep inside of Misty Faye / Dahlia Hawthorne. She'd have had to pull it out, which is ridiculous, attack the person, and that's a lot of, presence of mind in a situation to be able to do that. And then they had to put the sword back in again? Does that make any sense? Right, here we go. I'm sorry to say this, but that interpretation would create an enormous contradiction.
That makes sense. After all, my deductions are almost certainly never correct.
He admits it. Remember the testimony she just gave? Before the killer let out a scream, Maya said she had already been splattered by the victim's blood. In other words, the blade and the staff had already been plunged into the victim. Hey, same what I said. Is that right? She couldn't have struck back with a sword that was already stuck in her body. Wow, it's almost like I've merged into him, or he's finally common sensing. The weapon that caused the killer to let out a scream Must have been something other than the staff. And now, the dagger that was overlooked.
If you're so sure about that, then don't keep us waiting any longer, trite.
There's only one thing I can think of. That could have been used as a weapon here.
If Dahlia Hawthorne had already been stabbed in the back by the staff, what could she have used to strike back at the killer?
It's it. We even get 2 chances. So if I'm wrong, we're looking good. We know the blood doesn't match the victims. Take that! It's the dagger. Naturally, the dagger the killer brought to the scene of the crime.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
This dagger was found at the crime scene, stuck into a pine tree.
Yes, the detective found that this morning and brought it to me.
Dahlia Hawthorne struck back at the killer with this, and she managed to wound him as well.
Objection!
Just because he let out a scream doesn't mean that he was wounded. For all we know, the blood on the dagger could have been from the victim.
Objection!
No, we know that's not the case. Have you forgotten that the blood has already been tested? Since we learned it wasn't the victim's blood, it must have been the killer's blood. The killer must have a wound somewhere on his body.
So you're saying the blood on this dagger belongs to the killer?
Exactly. A DNA analysis of the blood would prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And yes, Mr. Godot, it would prove that it's your blood.
Nice theory, trite.
But he's not visibly injured. But I know where this is going.
Order! Order in the court!
Is this the end? Have I done it? Even he won't be able to change the results of a scientific test.
Ha! Let me ask you something, trite. Let's just say that it turned out that I was the killer. Do you really think I would be stupid enough to leave evidence like that?
What?
Just think for a second. This dagger was found this morning by a detective and brought to me. There was already blood on it, correct? But even so, I was the one who brought this dagger here to the courtroom. Yes! What does that prove? Well, if I really were the killer, I could have washed the blade off and then planted another person's blood on it.
That's... It can't be!
In any case, there's one thing I can guarantee, trite. That blood doesn't belong to me. Not a chance.
What? We're still not there yet?
In any event, it seems to be established that the killer was wounded. Alright then, witness, continue your testimony.
No, hold it. Well, wait a minute.
What's the problem?
I know I probably shouldn't say this, but it's a big contradiction in Nick's explanation.
Mayor?
This dagger. You said that it wounded the killer. That's right. But if Mr. Godot had really been cut with a dagger, his clothes would be bloody or have a rip in them, right? Thank you for being the voice of reason. What? She's the voice of logic for once? Basically, I know where this is going. All we have to do is take off his mask. Mayor? Maybe you just changed his clothes. That'd solve the contradiction pretty easily, but remember the target area! What are you talking about? It's not that simple at all. Remember back to the day of the murder. Everyone that was on the inner temple side got trapped there. He couldn't change clothes.
Ah, that's right. And once the bridge was fixed and the police headed for the inner temple, Mr. Godot was already there waiting for them.
He never had a chance to change his clothes.
Ah!
Do I keep going or not? That's the question.
Order! Order in the court!
Well, maybe he brought a change of clothes with him.
But no one could have predicted the lightning strike that shut down the bridge.
Exactly.
Why would anyone have brought a change of clothes?
Did the judge take smart pills during the last recess? Well then, maybe the killer took off his clothes before he committed the murder. That way he wouldn't get any blood on them, the nude murderer.
Objection!
It's cold.
That's impossible, trite. You know how cold it gets up there late at night. After a few minutes with no clothes on, you'll be frozen solid.
Ah! Now he's got his stupid pills on.
Ha! So that's all you've got? I knew you weren't tough enough to finish this. Right now, if Mia Fey were here... she would have closed the book on this case already.
If Mia Fey were here?
So come on, Wright, you do it or not. How about it, Mr. Wright? You've accused Mr. Godot of being the killer, but can you prove it? Have you got even one piece of evidence?
The question isn't whether I can prove it or not. The fact is I have to prove it. That's the only choice I have. I was taught that it's one of the rules of being a lawyer. I can prove it. I'm going to bring your magnificent vengeance to fruition, just as you want it.
Ha! That's good. A fight until the bitter end, Wright. Since there's just one piece of evidence that can prove your points, why don't we go for the unlimited penalty?
Oh, come on! Are you trying to pressure me, Mr. Godot? It worked. Because it doesn't matter to me. I've got the one piece of evidence I need.
Give me a break. You've got nothing, Wright.
So what do I do at a time like this? I just want him to take the mask off. I know what I need to do. It's simple. I've got to think outside of the box and approach this from a different angle.
Alright then, Mr. Wright. Let's hear what you've got.
There's one thing I've demonstrated in the previous cross-examination. The killer was wounded. That was proven by the blood on the dagger.
But we decided it was impossible for him to have hidden such a wound. If he had been cut by a dagger, there should have been a bloodstain on his clothing.
Not if it's a place which is not clothed. There's one place. One place the killer could have hidden his wound.
What did you say?
Hidden? He knows I got him. Finally! Phoenix! This is it, my last stand. I need to think about this from a different angle. I don't need to think about why there were no bloodstains on his clothing. I need to show how he hid the wounds. He's wearing his mask!
It's the end of the line. The final stop, Wright. Let's hear what you got. Where's this location where you say the killer hid his wound?
Oh, what am I presenting here? Probably just you. But with the case looking to continue for some time more. I'll cliffhanger you horribly once again. I'll tell you to join me next time for the definitive finale of Trials and Tribulations. Bye-bye.